Hellboy is a 2019 American superhero film based on the Dark Horse Comics character of the same name. It's directed by Neil Marshall and it stars David Harbour in the title role. It's a reboot of the Hellboy film series and the third live-action film in the franchise. The film itself draws inspiration from the comic books Darkness Calls, The Wild Hunt, The Storm and the Fury, and lastly, Hellboy in Mexico. In the film, Hellboy struggles with his own personal crisis while trying to prevent a resurrected sorceress from conquering the world. It was released in April 2019 to some negative reviews and it lost money compared to its budget. So, could the film been better? Well, any film could be better than what came out, even the best films. But that's what we're talking about today. We are going to be discussing 10 things that could have made Hellboy better. Right, before we get started, why don't you hit the subscribe button and also join the notification squad and get notifications every Sunday 6 PM UK time when we do a live premiere of my videos, and you can come and join the chats and join in the community and also quiz me about my knowledge of this film or what you thought of the film as well. There's a subscribe button down there. You've also got the other buttons where if you can hit them as well. Lastly, there is spoilers about this film, so if you haven't seen it, I may ruin the film for you, so you have been warned. But enough of me talking, let's crack on with it. Number 10. Where's Ron Perlman? Yes, I know, this is a reboot, but David Harbour's not Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman was perfect as Hellboy. He was absolutely fantastic as it. He brought the whole characterization to life perfectly with his big gruffness, but his childlike demeanour. David Harbour does not pull that off very well. But this film suffers from missing Ron Perlman. Number 9. David Harbour's portrayal. I know I've literally just said that David Harbour is no Ron Perlman, but David Harbour's portrayal I didn't think was that good. He portrayed Hellboy like a spoiled brat goth child rather than an interdimensional demon that has issues of whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. It was like what? Kevin. That's who he reminds me of, Kevin from Kevin and Perry. It's not fair. That's what he reminds me of. I didn't really enjoy his performance of Hellboy. Number 8. No to Origins. Why do Hollywood think that its audience is stupid? Okay, so we've got a reboot. Oh, the audience needs to be told about this new Hellboy. No. He's a demon from hell trying to conquer the planet. He's raised in a good man. There's no difference between the first origin story and this origin story. It's the same. We don't need to think we're thought and no one's going to understand it. I mean, best example, look at Spider-Man from the MCU. He's been in 5 films and no origin story for this version of Spider-Man, and he's one of the best Spider-Man. Yet Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire both had origin stories. We don't want an origin story every 5 seconds. Just carry the story, just do a complete unique story. We don't have to have an origin story on every single superhero film. Number 7. Should have been a sequel. Yeah, this film should have really been a sequel to Del Toro's 2 Hellboy films. It didn't really need to be a reboot. It could have just carried on. Even with a new cast, it could have been exactly the same, just a continuation of that story. It would have made the story a little bit less convoluted, take that few bits out, just tweak the story. You've still got a unique story to carry on the original franchise, or just make a complete new story. But yeah, it would have worked as a sequel, even with a story in place. Number 6. Villain's goal. So, Nimue was trying to create a world where monsters rule and humans are no more. But why? No real motivation, no explanation of why that's what she wanted. They did show at the beginning of the film that she was an evil person already and she was killed by King Arthur with Excalibur, but there was no explanation of why she was evil in the first place. In today's cinema, we want explanations to why the bad guys are bad guys in the first place. Just that little bit of motivation. We may not agree with it, we may not like it, but the explanation to why. And that's something this film fails on, is why the bad guy was doing what she was doing. Number 5. Portrayal of the English. Now, I'm English. I was born in England. I grew up and spent most of my life at the south of the UK. And I don't talk with a posh accent. I don't talk like this. I don't drink my tea with scones. No, that's not me. Yet everyone in this film has a really, really OTT bad English accent. No one in England talks like that. Really, no one does. And to make it worse, everyone's walking around in suits, with ties and jackets and hats, with umbrellas and briefcases. No one does that. This film is borderline racist towards us English here. Number 4, bad henchman. So there's actually quite a lot wrong with the henchman. I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. But he was a pig-like fairy. Now, if you do some research, the character he's supposed to be looks more like a goblin than a pig-like fairy. And it was appalling. And what made it worse is, once again, is the poshness. He swears like a trooper, but with a posh accent. No! I mean, he spoke like he was a love child of Vinnie Jones and Danny Dyer. That's what he sounds like, but with a posh accent. No, it doesn't work. Lose the poshness. Number 3, not break the wrestling code. So, in wrestling, one of the biggest rules, especially in Mexico, is you do not take another wrestler's mask off. And yet they did that in this film. That's a big no-no, especially in Mexico. It's the biggest sign of disrespect you could ever do in wrestling, and yet they did it. I understand why they did it, but there was another way around it. When he turned into a vampire, have him rip it off himself. It would have been fine. Not have Hellboy rip another wrestler's mask off. I mean, I'm getting the feeling that this film is just a pure insult to me here. Number 2, an anticlimactic ending. So I was getting geared up to having a big fight between Hellboy and Nimue. You know, the stereotypical good versus evil fight. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be awesome. Nope. One move, he chops her head off. That's it. I mean, come on. This is an action film. We want action. It's a comic book film. We don't beat the bad guys with a war of words. There's supposed to be a fight. There's supposed to be an action. And yeah, nothing. It was very, very anticlimactic, this film. Number 1, Avengers' way of beating the army. So, yeah, in this film, the army of darkness is coming up from hell, just running rampant in London. And what does Hellboy do? Is he getting his friends and having a big old fight to stop them? Is there a new super weapon that's going to send them all back to hell? No, he puts Excalibur back in the ground, battle over. And it is done pretty much the same way as Avengers. Tony Stark nuked one ship, everyone died. But at least in Avengers, you got a fight out of it. But no, it was really anticlimactic. Everything in this film just fell on the duds. Final thoughts. So when these smaller comic book franchises get a big enough fan base, there is ultimately always going to be a film. And I mean, hopefully one day Darkworld, which I do work with, hopefully they get a big film adaptation. But this film has ruined a lot of that, because what they do is they don't understand the product that they're actually trying to make a film of. They try to take bits from here, bits from here, bits from here, and just shove it into one big story and an origin story. And it's too much for the film. It ruins and loses stuff because there's too much in there. It's overflowing with information and it's all just being swept away. You don't sink it in. And unfortunately, this is damaging a lot of movie makers making comic book films, especially from smaller franchises. If you took a couple of these things out and just concentrated one, maybe two elements from it and just did that, you'd get a lot more of an enjoyable film. But this film doesn't. Now, I'm normally a fan of musical scores, but same again, this film found on the musical scores as well. It was like just taking templates from everything else. I heard like a bit from Aliens, a bit from Resident Evil. There was nothing original about the music in this either. That being said, there are some good things about this film though. The special effects on the creatures were fantastic. Especially the three giants running around the New Forest was fantastic. Ian McShane was brilliant. He actually was better than how John Hurt played it in the original Hellboy. Out of the casting, he was perfectly cast as that. He had that I don't care, but I do care type of demeanour to his character. And he was a very good addition. But yeah, I'm struggling to come up with good things about this film. So, how would I rank this film out of 10 with my berry meter? Well, sorry, there's only going to be 4 berries on this. It wasn't actually that good. there's no hope for the sequel, even though they've left snippets in post-credit scenes of sequels. I really hope they don't. If they do a sequel, it's another reboot or someone else comes on board to put their vision on it. Del Toro, please come back and do a fourth one. That would be a great help. But what did you think? Is there anything you liked about the film? Did you actually like the film? Should I actually more be asking? Leave in the comments below of what you actually thought of the film, if you thought. Is there anything I've missed off this list that you think could have made this film better? Leave them down below. Or even get in touch with me on one of these social networking sites up here. There's other videos on the screen by now, and I look forward to seeing you next week, 6 o'clock UK time. Bye bye.